Navigating Toxic Relationships, a Stoic Guide to Emotional Resilience. In today's fast-paced and interconnected world, toxic relationships have become an increasingly common challenge that affects millions of people across various aspects of their lives. Whether it's in the workplace, family dynamics, romantic partnerships, or social circles, these harmful interactions can significantly impact our mental health, productivity, and overall well-being. Understanding the true nature of toxic relationships is crucial for maintaining emotional resilience and building a healthier life. Toxic relationships are characterized by patterns of behavior that consistently undermine, manipulate, or emotionally harm one or both parties involved. These interactions often manifest through subtle yet persistent actions that erode self-esteem, create anxiety, and foster dependency. The insidious nature of toxicity lies in its ability to gradually wear down even the strongest individuals, making them question their worth and reality. This is why recognizing these patterns early is essential for preserving one's mental health and personal growth. The importance of addressing toxic relationships cannot be overstated. Left unchecked, they can lead to severe psychological consequences, including chronic stress, depression, anxiety disorders, and even physical health issues. Moreover, these negative interactions can spill over into other areas of life, affecting work performance, personal relationships, and overall quality of life. The cumulative effect of prolonged exposure to toxic environments can be devastating, creating a cycle of negativity that becomes increasingly difficult to break. This comprehensive guide aims to provide readers with practical strategies and philosophical insights drawn from Stoicism to help navigate and overcome toxic relationships. By combining ancient wisdom with modern understanding, we'll explore 13 powerful approaches that empower individuals to recognize toxic patterns, establish healthy boundaries, and cultivate emotional resilience. Each strategy builds upon the others, creating a holistic framework for dealing with challenging interpersonal dynamics while maintaining inner peace and personal integrity. Throughout this journey, we'll delve into specific techniques for handling toxic situations, from identifying warning signs to knowing when to walk away. We'll also examine the psychological mechanisms behind toxic behaviors and how they affect our emotional responses. By understanding both the external manifestations and internal impacts of toxic relationships, readers will gain valuable tools for protecting their mental health and fostering positive connections. Identifying and understanding threats. Recognizing the signs of toxic behavior. Recognizing toxic behavior patterns requires keen observation and honest self-reflection. Common signs include persistent criticism disguised as constructive feedback, manipulation through guilt or obligation, and frequent boundary violations. These behaviors often manifest in subtle ways. A coworker who constantly undermines your contributions, a friend who always needs one more favor, or a partner who uses affection as leverage. The key indicators typically involve power imbalances, where one party consistently seeks to control or diminish the other's autonomy and self-worth. Understanding the emotional impact of toxic interactions is equally crucial. When faced with such behavior, our natural response might be anger, frustration, or defensiveness. However, it's important to recognize that these reactions are precisely what toxic individuals often seek, an emotional reaction that validates their behavior or gives them power over you. This is where Stoic philosophy offers valuable insight. The true impact of toxic behavior isn't inherent in the action itself, but rather in how we choose to respond emotionally. Our reaction is the determining factor in whether the interaction truly harms us or not. Developing awareness of your emotional triggers is fundamental to managing responses effectively. Start by observing your physiological reactions during interactions. Does your heart race? Do you feel a knot in your stomach? These physical cues often precede emotional responses and can serve as early warning signals. Keep a journal documenting interactions that trigger strong emotions, noting the specific words or actions that affected you. Over time, patterns will emerge, helping you identify which situations most frequently challenge your emotional equilibrium. Practicing mindful observation during interactions can also enhance your ability to maintain composure. Instead of immediately reacting, take a moment to mentally step back and analyze the situation objectively. Ask yourself, is this person's behavior truly about me, or is it reflecting their own insecurities or issues? This perspective shift can help diffuse the emotional charge of potentially toxic encounters. Remember, the goal isn't to suppress emotions, but to understand and manage them constructively. Building emotional awareness also involves recognizing your own vulnerabilities and how they might be exploited in toxic relationships. Are there particular topics or situations where you're more likely to lose control? Understanding these weak points allows you to prepare appropriate responses in advance. For instance, if you know certain criticisms hit particularly hard, you can develop pre-planned, measured responses that maintain your dignity without escalating conflict. Finally, it's important to acknowledge that emotional reactions aren't inherently good or bad. They're simply information about your current state. The key is learning to use this information wisely. When you feel triggered, view it as a signal to pause and consider your options rather than react impulsively. This approach transforms potentially damaging interactions into opportunities for growth and increased self-awareness, ultimately strengthening your ability to navigate toxic situations with grace and resilience. Building strong emotional boundaries, establishing and communicating limits. Establishing robust emotional boundaries serves as a critical defense mechanism against toxic influences, functioning much like a fortress wall that protects your mental well-being. The process begins with clear self-assessment and honest acknowledgement of your limits. Start by identifying specific behaviors that make you uncomfortable or compromise your values. These could range from constant interruptions during conversations to unsolicited advice about personal matters. Once identified, these boundaries need to be communicated assertively yet respectfully to those around you. Effective communication of boundaries requires a direct but diplomatic approach. When expressing your limits, use I statements that focus on your feelings and needs rather than accusing others of wrongdoing. For example, instead of saying, "You always interrupt me," try, "I feel frustrated when I'm interrupted because I value completing my thoughts." This framing helps prevent defensive reactions while clearly communicating your position. It's equally important to specify concrete consequences for boundary violations, perhaps limiting interaction time or taking a break from the relationship if boundaries continue to be disregarded. Implementing boundaries often faces resistance, especially from those accustomed to having unrestricted access to your time and energy. Some may accuse you of being cold or distant, while others might attempt to guilt-trip you into relenting. In these situations, consistency is key. Like a well-maintained fence, boundaries only work when they're consistently enforced. If you allow exceptions, even occasionally, you risk undermining the entire structure you've worked to build. Remember, setting boundaries isn't about controlling others' behavior, but about taking responsibility for your own well-being. The role of boundaries extends beyond mere protection. They serve as clear markers of self-respect and personal agency. When maintained consistently, they send a powerful message about your commitment to your own values and priorities. This clarity can actually improve relationships by eliminating ambiguity and establishing mutual respect. Those who genuinely care about you will adjust their behavior accordingly, while toxic individuals may distance themselves, an outcome that ultimately benefits your mental health. However, maintaining boundaries requires ongoing effort and occasional adjustment. Life circumstances change, and so do relationships. Regularly reassess your boundaries to ensure they still align with your current needs and values. Be prepared to modify them as necessary, either by relaxing restrictions with trusted individuals or reinforcing them with those who continue to push limits. The key is remaining flexible while staying true to your core principles. To strengthen your boundary setting skills, practice saying no in low-stakes situations. Start with small requests that don't carry significant consequences, gradually building up to more challenging scenarios. Each successful boundary enforcement boosts your confidence and reinforces your ability to protect your emotional space. Consider enlisting a trusted friend or mentor to role-play difficult conversations, providing valuable feedback on your delivery and approach. Remember that boundaries aren't permanent barriers, but dynamic tools for managing relationships. They should facilitate healthy interaction rather than completely isolate you. The goal is to create a balanced environment where mutual respect prevails, allowing authentic connections to flourish while preventing toxic influences from taking root. By mastering the art of boundary setting, you claim sovereignty over your emotional territory, ensuring that your relationships contribute positively to your life rather than draining your resources. Mastering emotional neutrality, the art of becoming uninteresting to toxic individuals. One of the most effective defenses against emotional manipulation is adopting the gray rock method, a strategy that transforms you into an unappealing target for toxic behavior. This technique involves deliberately presenting a neutral, unemotional facade that denies manipulators the satisfaction of provoking a reaction. Imagine yourself as a smooth, gray stone, unwavering and unaffected by the waves of drama crashing against you. The core principle is simple yet powerful. When you stop providing emotional fuel, toxic individuals lose interest in engaging with you. Implementing the gray rock method requires conscious effort and practice. During interactions, maintain a calm, indifferent demeanor that neither encourages nor challenges the other person's behavior. Respond to provocations with brief, factual statements that offer no emotional content. For instance, if someone attempts to bait you with criticism, reply with something like, "I hear what you're saying," in a neutral tone, then shift the conversation to a mundane topic. This approach robs the interaction of its emotional charge while maintaining basic politeness. The psychological impact of this strategy can be profound. Toxic individuals thrive on emotional reactions, whether it's anger, defensiveness, or hurt, because these responses validate their attempts at control. By denying them this satisfaction, you effectively short-circuit their manipulative tactics. Over time, they'll find interacting with you increasingly unrewarding and may naturally reduce their attempts to engage. This doesn't mean you should become robotic or completely shut down communication. Rather, you're selectively withholding the emotional responses that feed toxic behavior. Maintaining this neutral stance requires developing a form of emotional detachment that shouldn't be confused with genuine apathy. Picture yourself as an observer at a theater, watching the drama unfold without becoming personally invested in the outcome. This perspective allows you to remain present and responsive while protecting your emotional well-being. Practice this by visualizing an invisible barrier between yourself and the toxic individual, through which their words pass without touching your core emotions. Crucially, the gray rock method isn't about suppressing your true feelings, but rather about choosing when and how to express them. Reserve your emotional energy for meaningful interactions and supportive relationships. This conservation of emotional resources enables you to maintain a stable internal state regardless of external provocations. It's similar to how a skilled poker player maintains a consistent expression, revealing nothing of their hand while carefully observing others. To master this technique, start by practicing in low-risk situations. During casual conversations, experiment with delivering responses in a consistently neutral tone. Pay attention to your body language, keeping it relaxed and open while avoiding excessive animation or enthusiasm. Gradually increase the complexity of situations where you apply this method, building your capacity to maintain neutrality under pressure. Remember, the goal isn't to become emotionless, but to develop precise control over when and how you display emotions. This approach also helps break the cycle of reactive behavior that often characterizes toxic relationships. When you stop responding automatically to provocations, you create space for deliberate, thoughtful responses. This pause allows you to assess situations objectively and choose actions that align with your values rather than being driven by immediate emotional reactions. Over time, This practice strengthens your emotional resilience and enhances your ability to navigate challenging interactions with greater ease and effectiveness. Maintaining consistency. The broken record technique for assertive communication. The broken record technique represents a powerful tool for maintaining your position in challenging interactions, particularly when facing persistent pressure or manipulation. This method involves calmly and repeatedly stating your position or boundary, much like a scratched record stuck on the same phrase. The strength of this approach lies in its simplicity and unwavering consistency. You state your case clearly and repeatedly, without elaboration or emotional escalation, until your message is acknowledged or the conversation shifts. When implementing the broken record technique, preparation is key. Before entering potentially difficult conversations, formulate your core statement in advance. This should be a concise, factual declaration of your position or boundary. For example, if a colleague persistently tries to dump extra work on you, your broken record statement might be, "I understand you're busy, but I already have a full workload that I need to complete." Repeat this exact phrase each time the issue arises, resisting the urge to add explanations or justifications that might weaken your position. The psychological impact of this technique is significant for both parties involved. For the person attempting to challenge your boundaries, the repeated assertion creates a predictable pattern that eventually loses its novelty and effectiveness. Rather than engaging in a complex negotiation or emotional debate, they're met with the same calm, rational response each time. This consistency demonstrates your firm commitment to your position while avoiding the escalation that often accompanies heated arguments. Maintaining composure during broken record exchanges requires deliberate practice and self-control. Focus on keeping your tone steady and neutral, avoiding any inflection that might suggest frustration or doubt. Imagine yourself as a calm anchor in turbulent waters. Your stability provides the foundation for effective communication. If the other person attempts to provoke an emotional reaction or derail the conversation, gently steer it back to your core statement without engaging in tangential discussions. To enhance the effectiveness of this technique, combine it with strategic pauses and thoughtful listening. After stating your position, allow silence to settle before repeating your point. This creates space for reflection and prevents the interaction from devolving into a verbal tug-of-war. When the other person speaks, listen attentively, but avoid getting drawn into debates about peripheral issues. Your goal is to maintain focus on the central message while demonstrating respectful engagement. The broken record method proves particularly valuable in situations where others attempt to wear you down through repetition or emotional appeals. By matching their persistence with your own calm consistency, you establish a new dynamic that discourages further attempts at manipulation. This approach also helps preserve your mental energy, as you're not expending resources on crafting new arguments or defending your position against shifting objections. Practice this technique regularly in everyday situations to build your proficiency. Start with minor boundary settings, like declining invitations or maintaining work-related standards, gradually applying it to more significant challenges. With experience, you'll develop the confidence to maintain your position without wavering, creating a reputation for consistency and reliability that others come to respect. Remember, the power of the broken record technique lies not in its complexity, but in its steadfast adherence to your core principles, delivered with calm assurance and logical precision. Avoiding manipulation traps, cultivating detached awareness in challenging interactions. Navigating toxic relationships requires a nuanced understanding of emotional detachment that transcends simple indifference. True detached awareness involves maintaining a conscious presence in interactions while consciously choosing which emotions to engage with and which to observe from a distance. This sophisticated approach distinguishes between healthy emotional engagement and reactive entanglement, allowing you to participate fully in relationships without becoming ensnared in destructive patterns. The difference between genuine indifference and purposeful detached awareness is crucial. Indifference suggests a lack of concern or investment, which can lead to isolation and missed opportunities for meaningful connection. In contrast, detached awareness represents a deliberate choice to observe interactions objectively while maintaining emotional intelligence. This state allows you to acknowledge and process emotions without letting them dictate your responses or cloud your judgment. For instance, when faced with a toxic individual's attempts to provoke anger, you might recognize the rising irritation while consciously choosing to respond with measured calmness rather than reactive hostility. Developing this level of awareness requires cultivating several key skills. First, practice emotional labeling, the act of naming your feelings as they arise. When you notice tension building during an interaction, silently acknowledge it. I'm feeling frustrated right now. This simple act of recognition creates distance between you and your emotions, preventing automatic reactions. Next, implement what psychologists call timeouts in your mind. When confronted with provocative behavior, imagine pressing a mental pause button, allowing yourself a moment to assess the situation before responding. Another essential aspect of avoiding manipulation traps is recognizing the difference between legitimate concerns and manufactured crises. Toxic individuals often create false emergencies or exaggerated problems to maintain control. Developing the ability to discern between genuine issues and manipulative tactics requires careful observation of patterns rather than isolated incidents. Maintain a mental log of recurring themes and tactics used by toxic individuals, looking for evidence of intentional disruption rather than accidental conflict. This analytical approach helps you respond appropriately to real challenges while dismissing manufactured drama. Mindfulness practices can significantly enhance your ability to maintain detached awareness. Regular meditation sessions, even as brief as 5 minutes daily, train your brain to observe thoughts and emotions without attachment. This practice translates directly into improved interaction management, allowing you to maintain composure during challenging conversations. Additionally, visualization techniques can prove invaluable. Imagine yourself surrounded by a protective bubble that filters incoming information, allowing you to process it objectively before deciding how to engage. Strategic disengagement represents another powerful tool in avoiding manipulation traps. When conversations turn toward familiar toxic patterns, employ subtle redirection techniques. Change the subject to neutral topics. Introduce factual information to ground the discussion in reality, or suggest continuing the conversation at a later time. These tactics break the momentum of toxic interactions without appearing confrontational or dismissive. The key is maintaining polite engagement while systematically dismantling attempts at emotional manipulation. Perhaps most importantly, learn to trust your intuition while verifying it with evidence. Often, your initial gut reaction to toxic behavior accurately identifies manipulation attempts. However, supplement this instinct with objective analysis of patterns and outcomes. Does this person consistently create drama around specific topics? Do their actions align with their words over time? This combination of intuitive awareness and logical evaluation creates a robust defense against falling into manipulation traps while maintaining your ability to engage meaningfully with others. Embracing silence, the power of non-reaction in difficult situations. Silence often carries more weight and influence than words, serving as a potent tool for disrupting toxic interaction cycles. In moments of conflict or manipulation, choosing silence can transform the dynamic entirely, shifting power away from the instigator and back to yourself. This strategic non-reaction operates on multiple levels. It denies the toxic individual the satisfaction of provoking a response, while simultaneously giving you crucial space to process and respond thoughtfully. The psychological impact of silence on toxic interactions is profound. When you refuse to engage verbally, you essentially remove the fuel that drives manipulative behavior. Toxic individuals rely on predictable emotional reactions to maintain control, whether it's anger, defensiveness, or compliance. Your silence disrupts this expected pattern, creating uncertainty and discomfort for the manipulator. This pause can be particularly effective in situations where verbal responses typically escalate tensions, such as during heated arguments or passive-aggressive comments. Implementing silence as a strategic tool requires careful consideration of timing and context. Rather than using silence as a weapon or form of punishment, employ it as a deliberate space for reflection and regrouping. When faced with provocative behavior, take a deep breath and consciously choose to remain silent for a predetermined period, perhaps 30 seconds to a minute. Use this time to observe your emotional responses, analyze the situation objectively, and consider your best course of action. This brief pause often diffuses immediate tension while giving you valuable perspective. Different types of silence serve distinct purposes in managing toxic interactions. The pause silence creates a deliberate break in conversation, signaling that you're processing information rather than reacting impulsively. The boundary silence communicates firm limits without requiring verbal confrontation. Simply refusing to engage with unacceptable behavior sends a clear message about your standards. The reflection silence provides space for both parties to consider their positions, potentially leading to more constructive dialogue. Each variation requires different body language and timing to maximize effectiveness. To master the art of strategic silence, practice active listening during these quiet moments. Observe not just what's being said, but how it's being communicated, tone of voice, body language, and underlying patterns. This heightened awareness often reveals important information that might be missed in the heat of verbal exchange. Additionally, use silence to demonstrate your willingness to wait for genuine engagement rather than participating in superficial or manipulative interactions. However, it's crucial to balance silence with appropriate engagement. Prolonged or poorly timed silence can sometimes be interpreted as passive aggression or disinterest. To prevent this misinterpretation, pair your silence with open body language and occasional nonverbal acknowledgments, such as nodding or maintaining appropriate eye contact. When you do choose to speak, make your words count. Deliver thoughtful, measured responses that reflect your considered position rather than impulsive reactions. The cumulative effect of strategic silence extends beyond individual interactions. As you consistently demonstrate your ability to maintain composure and choose when to engage, you establish a pattern of behavior that influences how others interact with you. Toxic individuals may find it increasingly difficult to predict or manipulate your responses, while healthy relationships benefit from the authenticity and depth that thoughtful silence fosters. This disciplined approach to communication transforms silence from mere absence of sound into a powerful instrument for maintaining emotional integrity and navigating challenging relationships with grace and effectiveness. Reducing exposure, strategic minimization of toxic interactions. Limiting contact with toxic individuals represents a crucial step in reclaiming emotional well-being and personal agency. This process requires careful planning and consistent implementation, balancing the need for reduced exposure with practical realities of shared environments or obligations. The first step involves conducting a thorough assessment of your current interactions, categorizing them based on necessity and impact. Create a detailed map of your daily activities and relationships, identifying which toxic interactions are unavoidable and which can be minimized or eliminated entirely. For mandatory interactions, such as work-related contacts or family obligations, establish clear parameters for engagement. Implement what experts call controlled exposure protocols. Define specific times, locations, and durations for necessary contact. For instance, if you must collaborate with a toxic colleague, schedule meetings during core business hours rather than extending into personal time. Keep interactions strictly professional and utilize written communication whenever possible to maintain documentation and reduce emotional volatility. Similarly, when dealing with toxic family members, designate specific days or occasions for visits rather than maintaining constant availability. Creating physical distance plays a vital role in reducing exposure. Rearrange your workspace to minimize proximity to toxic colleagues. Request different shifts if possible, or utilize remote work options when available. In social settings, Position yourself strategically to avoid unnecessary contact, and don't hesitate to leave situations that become emotionally draining. Remember, your presence is a choice, not an obligation. Develop exit strategies for various scenarios, preparing polite but firm responses for when you need to remove yourself from toxic situations. Emotional distance requires equal attention and deliberate cultivation. Practice what psychologists term compartmentalization, mentally separating toxic interactions from other aspects of your life. After encountering toxic behavior, engage in quick mental reset exercises. Take 3 deep breaths. Visualize placing the interaction in a locked box and refocus on your immediate surroundings. This technique prevents toxic residue from spilling over into other areas of your life. Additionally, limit your emotional investment in toxic relationships by consciously redirecting your energy towards supportive connections and personal growth activities. Technology offers valuable tools for managing exposure. Utilize features like blocking, muting, or restricting notifications from toxic individuals on social media platforms. Set up separate email accounts or phone numbers for necessary communications, keeping personal contact information private. When face-to-face interactions are unavoidable, arrange for buffer zones. Involve neutral third parties in meetings, or conduct conversations in public spaces where behavior tends to be more controlled. Time management strategies can significantly reduce exposure risks. Schedule high-priority tasks during periods when toxic individuals are least likely to be present, and plan personal activities during times when you can fully disconnect. Develop routines that maximize productive solitude, creating buffers between necessary interactions and personal time. For example, follow work-related meetings with a solo walk or mindfulness exercise to cleanse your emotional palate before engaging with supportive relationships. Boundary reinforcement remains essential throughout this process. Clearly communicate your new parameters to relevant parties, emphasizing your commitment to maintaining professional or familial obligations while prioritizing emotional health. Prepare responses for potential pushback, focusing on factual explanations rather than emotional justifications. Remember that reducing exposure isn't about punishing others, but about protecting your well-being and maintaining your ability to function effectively in all areas of life. Regularly evaluate the effectiveness of your exposure reduction strategies, adjusting as needed based on changing circumstances or emerging patterns. Keep a journal documenting interactions, emotional impacts, and the success of implemented measures. This record provides valuable insights into which approaches work best and helps identify areas requiring additional protection. Through consistent application and refinement of these techniques, you can significantly decrease the negative influence of toxic relationships while creating space for healthier connections to flourish. Building a support network, cultivating positive connections, and finding trusted allies. Creating a robust support system stands as one of the most powerful antidotes to toxic relationships, offering both emotional refuge and practical assistance when navigating challenging dynamics. Begin by identifying individuals who demonstrate consistent kindness, empathy, and integrity. These are the cornerstones of trustworthy allies. Look beyond surface-level friendships to those who actively listen without judgment, respect your boundaries, and celebrate your successes without envy. These qualities indicate potential long-term supporters who can provide genuine assistance during difficult times. To expand your network of positive connections, strategically engage in activities aligned with your values and interests. Join community groups, professional organizations, or hobby-based clubs where you can meet like-minded individuals who share your commitment to healthy relationships. During these interactions, observe how potential allies handle conflicts and support others. Their behavior in various situations often reveals more about their character than direct declarations of friendship ever could. Build these relationships gradually, investing time and energy in nurturing connections that feel mutually beneficial and authentic. When seeking specific support from your network, approach allies with clear communication about your needs and expectations. Rather than waiting for crisis moments, establish regular check-ins with trusted friends or mentors. These scheduled interactions create a safety net of accountability and support, ensuring you have consistent access to guidance and encouragement. For particularly challenging situations involving toxic relationships, identify a primary ally who understands the dynamics and can provide emergency support when needed. This designated confidant can offer objective perspectives during moments of confusion and help you maintain clarity about appropriate courses of action. The value of diverse support networks cannot be overstated. Include individuals from various aspects of your life, professional contacts who understand workplace dynamics, family members who know your history, and friends who appreciate your personal growth journey. Each type of connection brings unique insights and resources to your support system. Encourage cross-communication among your allies, with your permission, to create a more comprehensive safety net. When multiple trusted individuals understand your situation, they can coordinate support efforts more effectively and recognize warning signs you might miss during stressful periods. Active participation in supporting others strengthens your network's resilience and reciprocity. Offer assistance to your allies when they face challenges, creating a culture of mutual aid within your circle. This give-and-take dynamic ensures that support flows both ways, preventing feelings of obligation or imbalance. Participate in group activities that promote collective well-being, such as team-building exercises, shared learning experiences, or community service projects. These collaborative efforts deepen bonds while reinforcing positive relationship patterns. Leverage technology to maintain and strengthen your support network, especially when physical distance poses challenges. Establish regular video calls with distant allies, create private messaging groups for quick check-ins, and utilize shared digital platforms for organizing support activities. However, balance virtual interactions with in-person connections whenever possible, as face-to-face engagement often provides deeper emotional resonance and more nuanced support. When building your network, prioritize quality over quantity. A few deeply connected allies typically offer more substantial support than numerous superficial acquaintances. Finally, recognize that support networks require ongoing maintenance and evolution. Regularly assess the health of your relationships, acknowledging when certain connections need strengthening or when new allies should be integrated. Be open to expanding your circle as you grow and encounter different challenges, while maintaining core relationships that consistently demonstrate reliability and care. This dynamic approach ensures your support system remains responsive to your evolving needs while providing a stable foundation for navigating toxic relationships and fostering personal development. Prioritizing self-care, nurturing joy and inner peace through mindful practices. Cultivating a sustainable self-care routine serves as a cornerstone for maintaining emotional resilience while navigating toxic relationships. The key lies in developing a personalized regimen that combines activities promoting joy with practices enhancing inner peace. Start by identifying activities that genuinely bring you happiness. These might include creative pursuits like painting or writing, physical activities such as dancing or hiking, or intellectual challenges like learning a new language or skill. Schedule these activities regularly, treating them with the same importance as professional obligations, and protect this time from encroachment by toxic individuals or situations. Mindfulness meditation emerges as a particularly powerful tool for managing stress and maintaining emotional equilibrium. Dedicate 10 to 20 minutes daily to focused breathing exercises, progressively relaxing different muscle groups while observing thoughts without attachment. This practice trains your mind to remain present and centered, reducing the impact of toxic interactions. Expand your meditation practice by incorporating guided visualizations specifically designed for emotional healing. Imagining roots growing from your feet into the earth or surrounding yourself with protective light. These mental exercises create a sense of grounded stability that persists beyond meditation sessions. Nature immersion offers another essential component of effective self-care. Regularly schedule time outdoors, whether it's a morning walk in a local park weekend hikes in natural reserves, or simply sitting under trees during lunch breaks. Research shows that exposure to green spaces reduces cortisol levels and improves mood regulation, providing a natural buffer against the emotional drain of toxic relationships. Enhance these experiences by practicing forest bathing, slow, mindful movement through natural environments while engaging all senses. Notice the texture of bark, the scent of pine needles, or the sound of rustling leaves, anchoring yourself in the present moment. Integrate sensory-based self-care practices into your daily routine to create immediate access to calming experiences. Develop a collection of comfort items that engage different senses: scented candles or essential oils, soft blankets or clothing, favorite music playlists, or visually appealing artwork. Use these elements strategically during stressful moments to quickly shift your emotional state. For instance, keep a small vial of lavender oil at your desk to inhale during challenging work interactions, or wrap yourself in a cozy blanket while reading a favorite book after difficult family gatherings. Physical self-care deserves particular attention when managing toxic relationships. Establish a consistent exercise routine that combines cardiovascular activity with strength training and flexibility work. Yoga, Tai Chi, or Qigong offer excellent options that combine physical movement with mindfulness practices. Pay special attention to sleep hygiene, creating a restful bedroom environment and maintaining regular sleep patterns. Proper nutrition also plays a crucial role. Focus on whole foods that support brain health and emotional stability, while minimizing processed foods and excessive caffeine consumption. Create structured rituals around self-care activities to enhance their effectiveness. Develop morning routines that set a positive tone for the day, incorporating gratitude practices, gentle stretching, and affirmations. Establish evening wind-down rituals that help transition from work mode to personal time, perhaps including journaling, light reading, or soothing baths. These consistent patterns help regulate your nervous system and provide reliable anchors during turbulent times. Social self-care involves intentionally connecting with supportive individuals in ways that nurture your spirit. Organize regular gatherings with trusted friends that focus on shared interests or laughter-filled activities. Plan game nights, cooking sessions, or craft workshops that encourage interaction without pressure. These positive social experiences counterbalance the emotional toll of toxic relationships while reinforcing your sense of belonging and worth. Finally, remember that self-care isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. Regularly assess the effectiveness of your practices and adjust as needed. Some activities might lose their appeal over time, while new interests could emerge. Stay open to experimenting with different approaches, always prioritizing activities that genuinely replenish your energy and restore your sense of joy. By maintaining a diverse and flexible self-care routine, you create a resilient foundation that supports your emotional well-being while navigating challenging relationships. Releasing self-blame. Understanding the roots of toxic behavior. A crucial step in overcoming the impact of toxic relationships involves recognizing that harmful behavior fundamentally reflects the perpetrator's internal struggles rather than any inherent flaw in you. Toxic individuals often project their unresolved issues, insecurities, and past traumas onto others, using manipulation and control as coping mechanisms for their own emotional instability. This understanding liberates you from the burden of self-blame and empowers you to maintain your integrity without internalizing others' dysfunction. The Stoic path emphasizes focusing on what you can control, your own thoughts, actions, and responses, while accepting that other people's behavior remains outside your sphere of influence. This philosophical approach helps reframe toxic interactions as opportunities for personal growth rather than personal failure. When you encounter challenging behavior, remind yourself that the other person's actions stem from their own limitations and conditioning. Their inability to communicate effectively, maintain healthy boundaries, or express emotions appropriately reflects gaps in their personal development journey. To reinforce this perspective, practice what psychologists call cognitive reframing during and after toxic encounters. When someone attempts to blame you for their issues, mentally rephrase their words. They're struggling with their own challenges and trying to project them onto me. This conscious shift in interpretation helps maintain emotional distance while preventing absorption of undeserved guilt. Similarly, develop a personal mantra that affirms your worth and rejects misplaced responsibility, such as, "Their behavior is about their journey, not my value." Understanding the origins of toxic behavior doesn't excuse harmful actions, but provides valuable context for maintaining perspective. Many toxic individuals learn dysfunctional patterns from their own upbringing or past experiences, perpetuating cycles they haven't yet broken. Recognizing this generational transmission of unhealthy behavior patterns helps you approach situations with compassionate detachment, acknowledging their struggles without enabling destructive actions. This balanced viewpoint preserves your empathy while safeguarding your boundaries. Documenting patterns of toxic behavior can further reinforce your understanding of its external origins. Keep a journal specifically for recording interactions, noting common themes, tactics, and outcomes. Over time, this record will reveal consistent patterns that demonstrate how others' actions stem from their own issues rather than anything you've done. Review these entries periodically to reinforce your understanding of toxic dynamics and prevent self-blame from creeping back into your consciousness. Engaging in regular self-reflection helps distinguish between legitimate areas for personal growth and unfounded self-criticism stemming from toxic interactions. Conduct these reflections with trusted allies or mentors who can provide objective perspectives on your strengths and areas for improvement. Their feedback can help you focus on genuine personal development while dismissing false narratives imposed by toxic individuals. Remember, personal growth should enhance your well-being and relationships, not serve as punishment for other shortcomings. Ultimately, releasing self-blame requires embracing the concept of responsibility, the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than react emotionally. When you encounter toxic behavior, consciously choose how to respond based on your values and principles rather than feeling compelled to fix or change others. This empowerment comes from understanding that while you can't control others' actions, you can control your reactions and maintain your integrity. By focusing on your own Stoic path of development and maintaining clear boundaries, you create a foundation of self-worth that remains unaffected by external attempts to undermine it. Letting go of control. Accepting the limits of influence in toxic relationships. Attempting to fix toxic individuals often stems from a well-intentioned but misguided belief that change can be externally imposed. This futile endeavor typically results in frustration, emotional exhaustion, and continued exposure to harmful behavior. The harsh reality is that transformation must originate from within the individual themselves, a truth that becomes evident when examining countless failed attempts at intervention. Instead of pouring energy into altering others, redirect your focus toward cultivating personal growth and nurturing existing positive relationships. Recognize that toxic individuals possess their own agency and must assume responsibility for their behavioral patterns. While you can offer support or guidance if they genuinely seek change, attempting to force transformation typically backfires, often intensifying problematic behaviors. Instead, invest your resources in strengthening your own emotional resilience and deepening connections with supportive individuals who appreciate healthy relationship dynamics. This strategic reallocation of energy creates a positive feedback loop, enhancing your well-being while demonstrating alternative ways of interacting. Shift your perspective from helping to holding space, maintaining your presence while respecting others' autonomy in their growth journey. This approach involves setting clear boundaries while remaining open to authentic change initiated by the other person. For instance, if a toxic individual expresses genuine desire for improvement, offer resources or suggestions without taking ownership of their process. Recommend professional help, suggest books on emotional intelligence, or share examples of healthy relationship patterns, but resist the temptation to become their personal therapist or savior. Focus your energy on expanding your circle of positive influence rather than trying to reform toxic connections. Identify areas where you can make meaningful contributions to your community or support network, channeling your desire to help into productive outlets. Mentor others who show readiness for growth. Volunteer for causes aligned with your values, or simply deepen existing healthy relationships through quality time and mutual support. These proactive investments yield tangible benefits while protecting your emotional resources from depletion through unsuccessful rescue attempts. Develop discernment in distinguishing between genuine efforts at change and temporary modifications designed to manipulate continued engagement. True transformation manifests consistently over time, characterized by sustained behavioral adjustments rather than sporadic improvements followed by regression. When evaluating potential changes in toxic individuals, look for verifiable patterns rather than isolated incidents. Require evidence of lasting commitment before adjusting boundaries or increasing engagement, and remain vigilant for signs of returning to old patterns. Redirect your problem-solving skills toward enhancing your own life and strengthening positive connections. Invest time in personal development activities that build resilience, such as learning new communication techniques, developing conflict resolution skills, or exploring therapeutic modalities that complement your growth journey. Simultaneously, nurture existing healthy relationships through regular quality interactions, shared experiences, and mutual support. These investments create a robust foundation that withstands the challenges of maintaining boundaries with toxic individuals while fostering personal fulfillment and emotional well-being. Knowing when to walk away. Recognizing critical points for relationship termination. Identifying the precise moment to sever ties with a toxic relationship demands both courage and clarity, often emerging from patterns rather than single incidents. Watch for warning signs that indicate the relationship has become irreparably harmful. Persistent boundary violations despite clear communication, escalating manipulation tactics, or noticeable deterioration in your mental health and daily functioning. When these patterns emerge, it's crucial to acknowledge that your well-being takes precedence over maintaining the relationship, regardless of its nature or duration. The decision to leave should stem from careful evaluation of three key factors: frequency, intensity, and impact of toxic interactions. Track how often damaging behaviors occur, noting whether they're becoming more regular or pervasive. Assess the emotional intensity of these encounters. Are they leaving you increasingly drained, anxious, or diminished? Finally, examine their impact on various aspects of your life, from work performance and social connections to physical health and sleep patterns. When these metrics consistently trend negative despite your best efforts to address issues, it's time to consider separation. Prepare for the termination process by creating a comprehensive exit strategy. Begin by documenting specific instances of toxic behavior, maintaining records of communications and interactions that illustrate the relationship's detrimental effects. This documentation serves both as evidence of your decision-making process and protection against potential backlash. Simultaneously, strengthen your support network, informing trusted allies about your plans and securing their assistance during the transition period. Arrange practical logistics in advance, whether it involves finding new housing, adjusting work responsibilities, or establishing financial independence. When executing the separation, prioritize safety and clarity. Choose a neutral location for the conversation if face-to-face interaction is necessary, or opt for written communication if direct contact poses risks. Maintain a firm, respectful tone that acknowledges the relationship's conclusion without inviting negotiation or guilt trips. Use specific examples to explain your decision while emphasizing that it's final and non-negotiable. Prepare responses to potential manipulation attempts in advance, practicing them with trusted friends to maintain composure during the actual interaction. Post-separation, implement strict boundaries to prevent re-engagement. Block contact through all channels, including social media and mutual acquaintances, while establishing consequences for boundary violations. Develop scripts for handling potential contact attempts, focusing on maintaining your position without engaging in debate. Surround yourself with positive influences and activities.